Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good afternoon and good evening, and welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 74 countries. So if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. If you have been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you for your continued support from wherever you are in the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here, we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing. We highlight that transformational moment that changed our lives and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Join us during the week, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Join our Facebook group, Life Transformation Radio Community, and you can interact with the guests and also fellow listeners. I ask that you subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, CastBox, Himalaya app, the Google Play Music app. Basically, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, Life Transformation Radio can be heard. Please subscribe. And then if you think we're worthy, please leave us a rating and a review. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, basically amazing people who are impacting the world around them. And my guest today does exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time until 6:30, you can call us up at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. And with that, please help me welcome to the show my guest for today, Charlie Mickschl. Pretty sure I pronounced that right. Charlie, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Yes, you did pronounce that right. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to share my experiences and journeys to where I am today.
I'm absolutely excited, a little anxious. We're going to get into some pretty heavy stuff. And I just want to thank you for coming on the show and being a guest, especially during September, which is Suicide Awareness Month. So perfect timing. And the kids are back in school, so even more perfect timing. And I just really appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to it. It couldn't have been a better time for both of those, matching up with the kids going back to school, but also for Suicide Awareness Month and trying to make an impact there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So the title of this episode is Words Don't Have Power with anti-bullying and suicide speaker Charlie Mickschl. After the tragic suicide of his son Kristopher, Charlie found out that his son was being bullied at school. Charlie has invested thousands of dollars in self-improvement and development. To honor Kristopher, he has spent countless hours to figure out how to make an immediate impact in the lives of children to get out of the negative states they are in and release the negative trauma from their past. Charlie has spent a significant amount of time incorporating a parenting program to help parents release the traumas in their lives while improving communications with their children, while simultaneously giving parents the skills necessary to help their children deal with their issues. Charlie's one-on-one coaching sessions have impacted thousands of lives. He has dedicated his life to the betterment of healing of families and children. Charlie has positioned himself to become one of the best Neuro-Associative Conditioning Coaches for children and families. He is a practitioner of Neuro Linguistic Programming, specializing in Erickson Hypnotherapy and has obtained the knowledge to work in Gestalt therapy and mental emotional release. Charlie works with families that are experiencing suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety, anger issues, fears and phobias, and children experiencing emotional traumas. You can go to his website at Charlie Mickschl, Mickschl. Charlie Mickschl. It's right there in the show notes. Charlie Mickschl, Mickschl.com, and his Facebook page is right there. Connect with him and let him know that you heard him here on Life Transformation Radio. So, Charlie, man, after reading that, I can't even imagine what you've gone through, the pain of losing a child. I have 16-year-old boy, and then I've got a 12-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a almost 2-year-old girl. So a boy and 3 girls. Can't even imagine what you have experienced and what you've gone through. So let's talk about your why for what you do for a moment. What is your deep why for what you do?
Well, the why is definitely to honor my son. I was not able to save my son's life. I had no idea what was going on in his life, and like it just hit us like a ton of bricks. Led me to a very dark and spiraling depression, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if you believe in God or a higher power or something, but something literally pulled me like, this is what you need to do. Like I was pulled into this career, like this is what you need to do. You need to help kids overcome their traumas, help them get out of their situations, how to make sense of their lives. And that was the why of what I do. It's all to honor my son and to save as many lives as I can.
I can't imagine being in school today. I see what my kids go through, and I pulled my 16-year-old out. He was in 7th grade, almost 8th grade, and he would just come home, and he's like, I hate this school. They don't like me. I don't like them. The teachers are rude. It's like, why do I have to go to school to put up with the nonsense? Like, why do I have to be subjected to that? I'm like, you don't. You can do homeschool. And he's like, I would just rather do that. Like, I cannot go to school and get picked on, or the teachers are like super mean to some of the kids. And it's not fostering a loving environment. You know, like I know there's alternative schools. There's some all across the country. You know, there's some holistic schools that are popping up. There's different kinds of alternative schools. There's private schools. There's Catholic schools, military. Like there's a bunch of schools that you could go to.
Sure.
However, subjecting a child to some of these environments, especially in low-income neighborhoods or in certain other neighborhoods, depending on, you know, what you look at as far as ethnicity, income, middle class, you know, whatever. It's brutal for some of these kids. I mean, kids are mean. I can't even believe, like, I hear some of the ways that these kids talk and they say things to each other. I'm like, man, when I was a kid, you kind of didn't really act that way. Like, you didn't act ugly towards other kids, you know? Man, my girls, man, they tell me some things. I'm like, no way. And then I listen to when their friends are here. I'm like, my girls are just as ugly as the other girls. Like, what the heck, man?
Yeah. So I want to speak to what you just said as far as like your son's situation. So if you look at my logo, it's the hands raising up. It's the silhouette of a person with their hands raised in the sign of like victory and accomplishment, whatever you want to put that meaning to, you put your meaning to it. But the key wording on that is words don't have power. And the other part of that is they don't have power unless you choose to give them power. So the more we listen to somebody putting us down, saying negativities, those bullies have somebody significant in their lives, a mom or a dad, that's most likely making them feel like they're not enough and they're not loved. So a lot of these bullies build up a false neuro-association because they're getting pain from being bullied themselves or making them feel like they're not enough, they build up what's called the false neuro-association. So they look at intimidating, putting other people down, and basically when they do that, they get a sense of like they feel enough. Because I'm able to intimidate that kid. I'm able to put them down. It feels good. But the goodness does not last. And so what I do is I go in and use the NLP techniques to be able to go down into the bully and extract those negative emotions and just teach him some new ways to look at life, to realize that, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter what anyone says to me. Like, if I react to it, that's what gives them that pleasure. So if you don't react to a bully, you don't show any signs, you even laugh about it and joke about yourself. Like, for instance, kids will say, I used to weigh a lot. My heaviest was 355 pounds. And in high school, I was pretty heavy. Kids would say stuff to me, and I would say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm fat, but you know what? I stay warm in the wintertime. And the more I did that, the more I realized and joked about it that they didn't do it. They stopped because they knew it didn't affect me, so they stopped doing it. When you show that something affects you in a negative way, a facial expression, anything, like you get angry about it, that's what they feed off of. So when you don't do that and don't give them that response that they're looking for, they eventually just leave you alone. And it doesn't solve the problem because we have all these organizations in here that say, you know, well, I'm an anti-bullying organization. Well, how do we fix the bully? That's what we need to do. We can charge the bully. We can arrest the parents. We can do all these things. Guess what? It never gets fixed. Until you go in and extract those negative emotions from what they feel like they're not enough and teach them, that's when it gets fixed. That's when they transform.
So I lived in Detroit, Michigan. And I got to tell you, man, we didn't have too many bullies. I mean, there was some alpha males, definitely some jocks and some other people. But in my high school, if you talked bad about somebody, if you you got in a fight 100% of the time. Yeah. Like that's how I grew up. Like if someone's talking crap about you, you go and punch them in the mouth. And literally, that's how I was raised too. Like my dad is in the military. My mom was like, you better not start a fight. But if someone picks on you, you better knock them down. And I mean, the people in my neighborhoods, and I mean, we didn't grow up in a great neighborhood, you know, middle class, poverty. You know, my mom was working multiple jobs just because, you know, child abuse at home from our stepfather. And man, like between being picked on at home by him and then going to school, like there just wasn't a tolerance. And I told my kid, man, I was like, look, if they even lay one, like let them talk smack, like let them do what you gotta do. Stand up to them, be like, yep, that's me. Like 8 Mile, like, yep, that's me. Yep, you're right. Yep. You know, they want to make fun of your shoes. They want to make fun of your hair. Like, cool. But if they lay a hand on you, knock them down. Apparently, the teachers didn't think too much of that because my kid did knock him down, and they were like, "This is all fighting at school." I'm like, "Well, then tell your kid to keep his hands off my kid because my kid will square him up." And so apparently, I was a bad parent because I told my kid to defend himself. I was like, "If some kid puts his hands on you, knock him out." But apparently, that's not the right thing to do. So that's how I was raised, and that's how I raised him. Now seeing, and this was, you know, he's 10th grade now, so this was 3-4 years ago. But as more research comes, as more people talk about this subject, the bullying and the anti-bullies, and, you know, there's a lot of research that there are ways, like you're talking about, there are ways to where you don't have to get in a fight with some kid, you know, where you talk to the bully and you use emotional intelligence and you use empathy, and violence isn't the way. And, you know, so I don't know if I'm getting like wiser, more educated, but I mean, even as an adult, like if some dude was I'm military. If some dude was up to me and put his hands on me, he's going down. Like, I don't know. Maybe hard roots, right? Maybe it's hard roots. Maybe it's just I'm bred to be a machine, you know, being in the military. But that's the way I raised my family.
I hear your approach. So one of the things that you read in my bio was I call generational trauma. Yep. So we have situations that our grandparents have passed down to our parents. Our parents pass it down to us. We pass it down to our kids, and we don't even realize we're doing it. So one of the key things I heard is your dad taught you. You said my dad taught me that if somebody puts hands on you, you square them up. Then you taught your
Yep.
son. So it's kind of like a pattern. The only problem with that, I spent 3 years as a Milwaukee County Deputy Sheriff working with emotionally disturbed inmates for 3 years. Very difficult work, talking people
Yeah.
on suicide and schizophrenia. So one of the things that I know that if, as you can see, society and culture changes from 5 years to 10 years to even 2 years, it changes.
Oh, yeah.
So what we did back then didn't have such of a negative connotation to it. It's like, okay, well, it was a fight. We're done. But nowadays, you got to be careful because there's so many kids carrying firearms and knives. And now if that kid squares out that kid, guess what? He goes and gets his brother or his uncle, and maybe they're associated with a gang. Now you have a real issue on your life. So it doesn't just become a problem. It becomes your life is at stake nowadays.
Yeah,
and that could change
that's true.
10 years from now. But if you use, like you said, your emotional intelligence to figure out a way how to overcome that situation, A, not let it bother you, B, have the right people involved that's able to help that person on both sides relieve their emotional traumas. And bullying is emotional trauma. So is the way you're raised. You could be raised negatively. That's emotional trauma. You talked about having a step-parent in the home that was abusive. That's emotional trauma. Unless you go in and release, I call it the emotional backpack, because kids understand that. You have a backpack that you put on, and you just don't fill it with books. Well, imagine those books being emotional traumas in your life. Imagine how heavy that backpack is if you don't know how to properly release it. And then when you get down in that state again, what are the key factors I need to do to get back out of that state quickly? Now, I'm not saying that you'll never get depressed, you'll never get angry, but guess what? The key is to get out of that state as quick as you can rather than dwelling on it and then causing more issues in your life.
I 100% agree. And with, like you said, today, there's more of a risk of engaging in certain behaviors. And, like you said, I remember when I got into a fight. So there was this group of kids or whatever. And again, raised a certain way. There was a group of kids, and when they were together, they were kind of like straight to numbers, like 4 or 5 of them, straight to numbers, but you get one by themselves, and they weren't so tough. So what happened was I started picking them off one by one. I'd find one alone, beat him up, and then the next day at school, kids would be like, oh, I heard you fought this kid, whatever. And then those group of kids come over like, we're going to get you. Well, they never did because I insulated myself in certain ways. And then I'd find one alone, maybe like, because, small town, so we'd like found one downtown, or you'd find one walking by himself, So I did that for a couple of days, and then all 5 of them jumped me. Like they literally came. I'm sitting at the table doing homework. Right, my mom worked doing homework. All 5 of them came in, broke into my house, dragged me outside, and jumped me and put me in the hospital. That's what happened.
Wow.
And you're right, man. Violence became violence, but I found them all by themselves, whatever. A funny thing happened was there was a group of people at the school that, because I was standing up for myself, because of whatever, they confronted those guys, and like I never got messed with anymore, So it was like, wow, we took all 5 of those, because they saw like this guy got beat up, this guy got beat up, this guy got beat up. Oh, 5 of you took them out. Wow. Really? So there was that, but that was like a turning point in my sophomore year of high school. Good God. I was in the hospital for 2 days, and I was all messed up because of that. And I came off of spring break, and people were like, man, are you okay? We heard about you, man. That was insane. And nobody really ever said anything to me after that. So I don't know if it was a blessing or what. But,
I guess it was your blessing.
It was a low moment. Yeah, it was a low moment. So I pulled up a stat, and it says, based on the Youth Risk Behavior Survey from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, it said 7.4% of youth in grades 9 through 12 reported that they had made at least one suicide attempt in the past 12 months. Female students attempted almost twice as often as male students, 9.3% versus 5.1%. Black students reported the highest rate of attempt, 9.8%, with white students at 6.1%. Approximately 2.4% of all students reported making a suicide attempt that required treatment by a doctor or nurse. So 2.4% of all students that reported trying to make an attempt required treatment. For those requiring treatment, rates were highest for black students at 3.4%. So that doesn't sound like much, 9 and 2 and 2%, 3%. That doesn't sound like much, but if you look at the amount of students, it says 1.4 million.
Yeah.
1.4 million. That is insane.
That to kind of speak on that subject, a lot of the times, and I don't have anything against doctors or therapists or psychologists or anything. I think they're great and wonderful, but a lot of times they're trained to figure out what the solution, figure out what's going on, and then diagnose and then treat. And most of the time, it's treated with a medication. And the emotional trauma that we deal with in our lives, where possibly a lot of those suicide attempts are dealing with past emotional trauma, that can be released simply with certain techniques to get you out of that state. Now, on the other hand, is I would be willing to wonder how much of the suicidal attempts that are going on are linked to increase in psychotropic medication, because the numbers are rising. The numbers for kids actually committing suicide is extremely higher than it was 10 years ago. But I'd like to know what that link is between psychotropic medications and suicidal ideation, because that's what happened to my son. He was diagnosed with depression because he was getting picked on at school by some girls. They treated with Zoloft. Then we started noticing that he cut himself during the school year. Then we brought him to a psychologist. The psychologist increased his medication. 2 weeks later, he went down in the basement, hung himself, and my 9-year-old daughter's the one that found him. So,
Jesus.
So, and then to answer on the African-American side of suicidal attempts, it is almost like forbidden to talk about your feelings in the African-American community and in the culture. A lot of the times they say, pray on it. Oh, if you're thinking those thoughts, you're not right with God. And it's all like every different cultures. I try to learn all these different cultures and why there are attempts based on cultural, and I talk to a lot of different people, but in the African-American community, why it's so high is because they don't have an outlet. Like mental issues within the African-American community is like, we don't talk about it. We deal with it, especially the males. You're not allowed to talk about it or do anything about it. You just bottle it up inside. And obviously we all know anything that's bottled up inside is not going to be healthy for you in the long run.
100%. And I saw a report based off of the last mass shooting that and I wouldn't call it a mass shooting. The guy was getting pulled over and he was trying to get away from the cops and just started shooting at the cops out the window, just frantically shooting or whatever. Anyway, they killed him and they found that he was on psychotropic drugs. The guy at the other Walmart, psychotropic drugs. Like 3 people out of all the mass shootings this year were on psychotropic drugs.
Yeah. And to answer
there is a direct correlation.
Oh, yeah. I think there's got to be something going on there. But I think also is that if we really looked at what was going on, look at all the mass school shootings where kids come into school and shoot up schools. Those kids did not start just saying, hey, I'm going to come to school one day and shoot them up. I guarantee you almost every one of those instances, that kid was the victim of a bully. And so they didn't know how to deal with the emotions, how to deal with it anymore. And like you said, something just snapped. And this was the best way that they could get their revenge to stop what's being done to them. Because it was probably more like a suicidal thing. Like, I'm going to just shoot all these kids that were bullying me as much as I can and then just kill myself.
Columbine.
Like there's no resort. There's no resolve. They don't care. That's
what they said in Columbine.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? That whole like trench coat mafia thing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
They were the 2 most bullied kids in school. In high school,
yes.
I think they were juniors. They were the 2 most bullied kids. It's crazy.
I also saw something with the last school shooting, the one that sparked up the anti-gun, like, hey, take away the guns, the students that were involved with it.
Oh, in
it's
Florida.
Interesting, the perspective. One of the students, the female, actually that was really heavily involved nationally. Her name was all over the place. She was on news media. She actually admitted to bullying that kid.
Yep. She was. She goes, I was so mean to him. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I keep telling everybody, I tell everybody this. I'm like, they're like, when does it stop? When does it stop? I'm like, God, when does it stop? I'm like, it stops when the kids start being mean to each other. That's when it stops.
Mm-hmm.
Like love drives out hate. Light drives out dark. So,
well,
because
that's totally my mission. That's what I'm trying to do.
That's good. It's what needs to happen. My 5-year-old is playing with these kids around the corner, like all in the neighborhood and stuff. A lot of kids there. And she's playing with these kids, and I'm listening to these kids talk, and I'm just like, you know how like when you're little, like, oh, whatever, poopy head, right? Like this little name called, like whatever, poopy head, like. But it's crazy because these girls together, like, I don't want to play that. You're stupid. I'm like, why would you be mean to her? She goes, she's stupid. I don't like her. I'm like, well, then don't play with her no more. Don't play with her. But she's my friend. No. See, she's not your friend if she's going to call you that or you're going to call her that. Like, you guys aren't friends. Like, you don't treat people like that. And so I'm very hard on my 5-year-old. Very hard on my 5-year-old. When I hear her even remotely start to talk bad about another person, I say, that's not what Christians do. And that's not how we act in this house. You do not act ugly to people. I don't care what they do. So my son, the same thing. Got a 12-year-old. They're always constantly fighting. He's like, I'll beat you. I was like, you're not going to touch her. You don't hit women there, boy. You don't hit women. And you, little girl, don't make your brother mad to where he wants to hit you. You be nice and you love each other. I don't care how much he makes you mad or how much you guys get on each other's nerves or what. Like, deal with it. You guys are freaking family. And so I'm like very strict on that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing with that. It's interesting because as parents, one of the things I teach parents is that it's our job to understand how our kids are a learner. Like maybe one of your sons or daughter is, you have one daughter, no, you have one son and 3 daughters, or one son.
Yep. 1 and 3.
One son, 3 daughters. Yeah. Yep. So it's your job to figure out, is your son a visual learner? Is he auditory? Does he touching? And so it's not just. And one of the techniques that I tell parents that's very important is that it's called the pain-pleasure principle. So your son or your daughter, I noticed my daughter is speaking badly about other.
Okay.
They need to leverage enough pain, and I don't mean physical pain. I don't mean intimidation. Right. I mean enough pain that or enough pleasure to what she's doing with her behavior. So if you link enough pain to, like, okay, when she says that, what is your daughter's favorite thing that she loves to do or loves to play with? You pull that away. And then if that doesn't work, you pull more away. And if that doesn't work, you keep going and going and going till you leverage enough pain for her behavior that she changes her behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. My kid, he loves video games. And, he has a cell phone. So, fine, you don't want to do what you're supposed to do? No video games and no phone. And then he gets mad. I'm like, that's not my problem. There's consequences. Yeah. Like, you don't think that if you do something wrong in life after 18, I can't save you anymore. So if you do something stupid and you go to jail, I'm not bailing you out. Like, I'm not your bank. I'm not going to give my kid any money. He has a job. He gives me money, and I put it into a savings account that he doesn't touch. He gets the rest. So he gives me like 10% of his checks, and I put it into a savings account. And then when he's 18, he'll get all that money. You can do whatever you want with it. But he knows, I'm not your bank. I'm not your savior. At 18, you're an adult. You make your own decisions. You're on your own. Like I'm not like, And so there's so many people that I know. Like I have some friends, and I'm like, your mom does what? Like they'll bail them out. They'll get in trouble. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, people are always there for your safety net. When you don't have a safety net, you tend to either figure it out. But if he gets way too far down the hole, I'm talking like alcohol, drugs, like all that stuff, of course we're going to be there to help him. We're not just going to turn our backs on him. But like, if you like drunk driving, like, dude, you're on your own. Like you're in jail, you're on your own. Sorry, dude. Shouldn't have done it. You know better. And you're underage drinking, sucks to be you. You made that decision. But like if you're hooked on like drugs or hooked on like if you're an alcoholic or something, like we got to get him to help because he can't do it himself. So I need to teach him. Like I'm not here for your bank and for you to pick up, for me to pick up the pieces. Like you need to learn. You need to make your own decisions. And so instead of like beating on the kids or doing all that stuff, I'm like, that's okay. I'll just take away your phone. Oh, and you're grounded to your room. Oh, and I'm going to take away your TV. Oh, and I'm going to take away your Nintendo Switch and your Xbox. And like the stuff that they love the most, I take it away. Yeah. So what I do is I take away the cord. So he has the TV in his room, but I take away the power cord. He has the Xbox in his room, but I take the power cord. You can look at it, but you can't touch it.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. The one thing I wanted to comment on is, and that's great. The one thing I wanted to comment on was the word that you kept using was decision. And I'm only making an assumption, but I'm assuming you allow your kids to make multiple decisions on one outcome. So, a lot of times parents say, you know what, you've made a bad decision. Well, have you ever taught your kids while they were younger and go all the way through high school to teach them how to make decisions? And a lot of times I tell parents is that if they're young, like my son's 7 years old, I tell him, I said, that you can do this now.
Okay.
Later, this is what's going to happen. If you do this now, then you'll have more time to do this. But you get to make the decision. But guess what? If you don't do either one, then this is what's going to happen. So then when he doesn't make that decision, either one, it gets taken away. And then he learns from that mistake. So then as we get older, I have another daughter that is 12. And so she gets to get her input on the decision making. So I need to know like what she's thinking, how she's thinking it, and then I make two decisions. I can make maybe one or two or three different things on what she needs to do as far as you can do this or this or this, and they're all relatively guided towards what she is looking at doing. It may not be exactly what she wants, but she gets to make a decision and choose. So then as they become 18-year-olds, and like you said, 18, you're an adult. If you make a dumb decision, guess what? Now you understand that if you truly made a dumb decision, I've prepared you since you were younger how to make decisions. You're the one that chose to make a bad decision. But guess what? I don't not love you. I don't not encourage you. Guess what? What did you learn from that decision that you did not like? Because as long as you're learning something from it and growing something from it, guess what? Most likely you're going to learn more and more and more to make better decisions because you're growing from the ones you didn't want to do.
Yeah, and I told them, I said from 16 to 18, I warned them, I said from 16 to 18, I'm going to suffocate you. I'm going to suffocate your selfishness. I'm going to suffocate your ego. I'm going to suffocate your unhealthy work ethic. I'm going to suffocate every negativity moment that you ever have in your life. I'm going to suffocate it out of your body so that when you are 18, you are a contributing member of this society, that you're not entitled, that you've earned everything, that you work hard for everything, that you appreciate everything, so that when you do get something of abundance, it's not wasted, and you don't think that abundance means that anytime I get it, I can just have it forever and whatever is going to come to me and whatever, because you can lose everything in a moment. But what you need to understand is the decisions don't ever only impact you. There's not one decision in this world that will only impact you, unless you're living alone and you can't decide what cereal to have in the morning. That's about the only decision it's going to make, right? But if you decide to wear a nasty, crusty T-shirt and you go out in public, people are going to stare at you and you're going to smell. If you don't go to work, then it impacts everybody at work. If you don't make money, then you don't have a house. It impacts, a lot of there's so many decisions that you can make that doesn't only impact you. And I suffocate the selfishness. I suffocate that unhealthy work ethic. Like you work hard, you earn that just came because of how I was raised. Me and my two sisters raised each other because my mom was busy working 2 or 3 jobs, and because my stepdad was a cocaine addict, alcoholic, and beat us all. So me and my wife are the exact opposite of what we grew up in. And so therefore I need to teach my kids resilience because they're not in a resilient environment. Not that we hand everything to them, but, you know, so talk about that. I think that resilience is a big contributing factor to bullying, to suicide, to the way they handle their emotions, decisions. Resilience is huge.
Yeah. Just and one of the factors with dealing with a bully, you have to be resilient. You have to not let that impact you. You have to not let it bother you. Maybe it may bother you, but then you're resilient enough that, okay, well, that did bother me. Oh, guess what? Why am I letting somebody else's words affect who I am? Like, literally, if you look out at the entire world, and only take into this mind 124 bits. We lose millions of bits per second, per second by deletions, distortions, and generalizations. If you delete something, for example, deletions, if you looked out at everything and tried to find everything that was green, and then you close your eyes, and I asked you, what's everything that's red? You deleted it because you only looked for green. You did not find red. So you have to realize that people may say things to you. People may put you down. People may do things to you. But guess what? If you only choose to look at that negative thing, you're going to have a negative environment. What can you learn and grow from that? Distortion would be, if you're in a bad mood, you're going to find everything bad about what school sucks, everything sucks about school, you're going to be bad. But if you're having a good time and you're feeling good about it, you're going to find everything good about what's around you. And that's where it loses millions of bits per second as well. So you have deletions, you have distortions, and then the generalizations are... When we make a generalization, it may not be a truth, but it's definitely a generalization.
Okay, say that again. What was the generalization?
The generalization is we have all these experiences in life. And once we build up all these experiences, we come up with a generalization. We assume something is a certain way. It doesn't mean that that's a concrete way of doing something or doing it. We just assume that this is the right way because we generalize it based on our experiences. So when you look at having 3 million bits per second down to 124, are you really going to put any effort into somebody that's trying to pull you down and put negative? Why would you listen to their 124 when you're trying to live your 124? And I even go to the point of saying, look, I know a lot of parents tell kids, like, this is what you need to be, this is what you should be, this is what you should be doing. Guess what? Ask the kid, what do you want? What do you want to do? What do you want to be?
Yeah. Oh, I do that all the time. And now I don't. What I don't do is I say, man, you got to have it all figured out. Man, you got to go to college. You got to get a job. I just ask them, like, what do you want to do? And so I've given, and being entrepreneurs and speakers and, what we do, he doesn't seem like he's into that. But what I've told him, I was like, man, if you really want to be video games, like you're obsessed with video games and that's all you want to do is play Fortnite, Fortnite this and everything else, like find a way to make money from it. There's people on Twitch that are making money. There's people on YouTube that are making money. Start doing what do you call it? Start making videos on how to do stuff. You know, start making tutorials. Start making tutorial videos. Start getting involved in communities. Start winning tournaments. Start getting awards and getting your name recognized. That I can get behind. If you tell me he went to on base, they had a video game tournament. And he formed a team and won first place. I'm like, heck yeah, that's what I'm talking about. If video games are bringing you awards, if video games are bringing you celebrity and notoriety, if video games are making you money, heck yeah, go do it. But if video games are warping your mind and wasting your time and you're not doing what you're supposed to and you're being ugly to people, nope, wrong, not happening. So, I'm going to take it away from them.
For sure.
So, hey, the focus of the show is transformation. So I want to go 2 ways because I kind of already know where we're going to go with the first one. But what was a transformational moment in your life that put you on the path to what you're doing today? And I'm sure we both know what that is, or at least I think. And then talk about the transformation that you give every time you speak, the kids that you work with, the parents and family. So talk about transformation as a whole. What got you to this moment and talk about the transformation that you deliver to parents and children.
Okay. So there were two transformational lives. I was, after my son had committed suicide, I was down deep, spiraling down, did not care about anything. And the one thing that transformed me the first time was seeing my two daughters suffer and seeing how bad they were suffering. And then that was like, I just kind of snapped, and I'm like, wait a second. We need to fix something here. I mean, I can't, it's not just me that, like you said, you have a decision. It's going to affect everyone. Well, I could decide to stay in that route of depression, and guess what? And if I would have ended my own life, then where my daughters would have been. So I chose that moment. I was like, I need to start taking care of my health. I need to start figuring out what I need to do with my life. And so after that transformational moment, I started fixing my health, my life, moving forward, and then I was just like, then I was stuck. I knew I wanted to do something to honor my son, but I never knew what it was. And the transformational life that happened to me is when I went to a Tony Robbins event. Just completely transformed, and he talked about modeling. So I'm like, this is who I'm going to model. I'm going to find everything that he knows, and I'm going to go learn it, and I'm going to go know it, and I'm going to involve with it. And so all the people that I've worked with, like, actually, they see as my enthusiasm on how, and like that immediately, whatever state they're in, they're like out of it immediately. They're in a state where they're like, oh my gosh, like I feel so much better now. And I'm like, well, we haven't even started yet. And I've taken clients that were literally, I remember one text I got from a client. It said, impending doom. I won't go into what his background was, but it was very severe background, abuse, just negativity, end of the world. And I met with him 5 times. I did some timeline therapy on him, and we met with him about 5 times. And after the 5th time, like, I still see him today, and he's like back dating again. He's like the happiest about life. He has smiles on his face now. And that was 5 sessions I met with him. 5 sessions. I've taken one girl that was hospitalized in a mental institution 2 times in her life. She was bullied in grade school so bad that she blocked it out. She had no idea what happened. She couldn't even tell me to this day what happened. She identified 23 instances of her life where she's never felt like enough. She's been in and out of, she's been dealing with therapists and psychologists. She was in grade school. So I met with her one time. We identified, it took us about an hour and a half to identify the 23 instances of in her life. And so, or 23 instances of her life where she's never felt like enough. So I did the timeline therapy on her. The next session, we did that. It was about an hour and a half, hour or so to do the timeline therapy. I called her 2 days later. I said, how are you feeling? Well, immediately after the timeline therapy, she said, I feel lighter. Like, I feel a weight lifted off my shoulders. I called her 2 days later, and I said, how are you doing now? Has anything else come up? She goes, it's the weirdest thing that's happened to me, and this has never happened to me before. But for the first time in my life, I find my mind wandering to positive thoughts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And when you have a passion for it and you just want to help and severely just make a difference in somebody's life, it comes out to them, and they know that most of the time they don't feel enough or they don't feel loved. And so when they see that from me, it's like, God, I feel so much love, and people do want to help me. I am worth something. I do want to live. I don't want to be angry. I don't have anxiety anymore over these situations because I know I can make it. So you give them that hope, and then you give them the tools how to get out of that state all by themselves. And the one thing I always tell them, I said, look, I'll always be here for you whenever you need it. In fact, even in my marketing piece is when I work with somebody and the payments are a little bit high.
Okay.
All 5 sessions, I will give you your money back because I don't want your money if I can't make an impact in your life.
Wow. Man, I can't even imagine, losing a child or having them feel that way, and I'm sure I don't make it easy. I'm very not like unreasonably strict. Now, it's probably cliche for me to say, like, I'm not unreasonable, but my kids might be like, oh, whatever, you're a tyrant, but there's a reason why. Everything has a reason. What I hated the most was I was like, Mom, why can't I? Cause I said, my wife says, oh my God, it pisses me off. Cause. I'm like, cause why? Why can't they? Why? Why not? Fine. I'm like, you have no good reason. Like, let them do what they want to do. Like, let them, you know what I mean? But when there's a reason, there's a reason. You know? So I always give my kids a reason.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. The one thing I would say to that is you don't, like, your style of parenting, and I'm not saying it's good or bad or anything. That's your parenting is your parenting. If it's working, it's working. The one thing that I caution parents is because they don't know if your style of parenting is good for your son, for that daughter, for the other daughter, it may not mesh. So the one thing I say is have open communications with their best friends' parents. Because a lot of the times you can say, hey, look, I want to know how my son's doing. Would you mind talking to him? And so that parent might be able to open a conversation up with your son or daughter that you had no idea anything was going on. And it was just, that's what blew my mind. We had no idea the bullying was going on, nothing. And it's just like I found it out afterwards because I was a deputy sheriff, so I was a cop. So I started investigating and figuring out what happened. But it was too late. Yeah. So always have that open communication with whoever their best friends are, their parents, and say, hey, would you mind talking to Tommy or to Bill? I want to find out what's going on in his mind. When you have that communication, oh, my God, it's so much powerful. Because like they said, it's not just the parents that raise it. It's a village. You need that village to raise your kids right.
Oh, for sure. And I know that my kids will probably never tell us everything. Yeah. But we do foster an environment where you should feel like you can tell us stuff. And our kids do all the time. You know, our kids will be like, so, you know, my 12-year-old's got a girl that she used to hang out with, but they're not friends anymore because that girl just acts bitter. And I don't know what kind of home she comes from, but, you know, here's what I don't get. One-on-one, amazing friends. They're so good. When that other girl gets around some other friends, she joins in their bullying of my daughter. And my daughter's like, you and I just hung out the other day. And the other girls were like, what? You hung out with her? Oh, my God. She's like, no, I'd never hang out with her. And I want to be there one day when she says, like, you were just in our house. Here, I'll show you a picture. Like, I'll show you a picture of us, of you at my house, whatever. And I don't know why girls are like, there's always this hierarchy or this battle for the alpha female. And it's not so bad. It's not so bad with the males outside of their cliques. You got the jocks, the preps, the nerds, the geeks, the loners, the whatever. But girls are just ruthless to everybody. And I was a drill instructor for basic training. Oh, yeah, gossip and rumors.
The rumors are the worst. And the one thing I teach kids with rumors is that if somebody's spreading a rumor, it's like, oh, I heard about this. I heard you have this because you were with this person.
Okay.
Say to that person doing is like, do you believe it? And they can say, they have two choices. They can say yes or they can say no. And if they say, well, no, and I say, well, good. I'm glad you don't. And if they say yes, then all they have to say is, you can believe it if you want to. Because now you don't give them the power by explaining it and making it worse. You just don't give attention to it. Or you can say, wow, you guys are talking that. Oh, this is great. I love it. They don't get the reaction that they're looking for. And that's what frustrates them. And guess what? That crushes rumors, destroys them. And she can handle any situation like that with any friend. Like, you think I'm this and you're just playing with me? Okay. Hey, I don't need to. You don't have to waste your time with people like that because there's so many people in this world that want to build you up, and those are the people that you want as your friends.
Yeah, and that's what I told her. So I told her it sucks, and you've been friends with her since, first grade, kindergarten, maybe first grade. I said, that sucks, and she's in sixth or something like that. She's 12 now. And I was like, and she's going to miss out. That's all that's going to happen. She's going to miss out. And I tell all my, I tell the two other kids, I said, do you know how many people I actually talk to? I'm 36. Do you know how many people I actually talked to from high school? Maybe 4.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. Really?
Yeah.
Maybe
and probably
4.
less from grade school.
Nobody. Nobody from junior high or elementary school. No. But I was like, do you realize how insignificant?
Either, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Facebook doesn't count. But I was like, do you realize how many actual conversations I have with people who actually enjoy, like we enjoy our company, we're good friends. It's like maybe 3. Yeah. Really good, awesome friends, maybe 3. I said, if you have like 4 or 5 people that you're just besties with, and there's no way you ever go against that person, that's all you need. That's it. You don't need 1 million followers on Facebook. You have 1,000 loyal people who love you on Facebook. You're set. It's not about likes and followers and everything else. It's about what you do in this world, and you build your legacy. And that's why I try to tell my kids, I'm like, man, you have so many opportunities to influence people. You could influence the bullies. You could influence the kids that are bullied.
For sure. Absolutely.
So there's that. So here's what I want to do. I want to do a shameless plug. We're going to wrap up the show, and we're going to do a shameless plug. You can plug your website, quotes, family, friends, Facebook, social media, whatever it is that you want the audience to know and to do. Shamelessly plug. Go.
I just want to say, if you have a child that's struggling, depression, suicide, anger issues, just feeling down, if you want that fixed, reach out to me. I can do it. We don't need medication for emotional trauma. If there's even an emotional trauma, a major trauma in somebody's life, we can do that without medication. I can help them. I can save your son or daughter. Give me the opportunity to. And guess what? If I can't do it, I will give you your money back. My soul, my heart, everything that I do is to honor my son and to save as many lives as I can. And the one thing that just kills me and breaks my heart when I see another child die of suicide or another child get hospitalized because of this or this or this. Just let me get a hold of them. If parents, if you're struggling to raise your kids and you don't understand them, let me reach out to you. Let me help you.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And yeah, just, the kids that lose their life, and suicide, and it's just not good. And no parent should send their kid to public school or any place, and then that kid feels less than. And I don't know if the 8th place trophy or 10th place ribbon is the way to include everybody, But the one thing I tell my kids is, winners win and losers lose. There is no prize for second place. You either win or you lose. And so if you lose, then work harder than the next person, and you'll win. And you'll feel better about it because of the work that you put in. Nothing is handed to you. And I think that when you toy with kids' emotions, like, you're special in your own way. Yeah, like, I totally get that. If that's how if you want to use kid gloves like 24/7, but guess what? They're going to grow up to be adults. Life's going to punch them in the mouth, and they're not going to know how to handle it. So there's a balance between being strict with your kids, right, and using kids gloves. Like, it's called emotional intelligence, and when you use empathy to lead, and not your fists, and not words, and not anything else. When you lead with empathy and emotional intelligence, and resilience gets born through that, I believe, from what I know, I believe that you make a more well-rounded human. Just my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Man, Charlie, this is absolutely not an easy subject to talk about, and I just appreciate your vulnerability and your sharing and the work that you're doing. For some kids, hearing your story might be, oh my gosh, wow, that's insane that kid had, like, oh my god. But you have to tell them every single time, and so it's real for you every single time.
Yeah.
Those kids
Yeah.
hear it once, they might forget about it later on. A month, 2 months, maybe 6 months from now, they go back to bullying or whatever. Or a kid was bullied, lost his life, which sometimes happens. Then you come into the school and you talk about that stuff. But man, I applaud you. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure that I'm emotionally capable to bury a child. I don't want to find out, but I just applaud you. I applaud your work, and I think you're a heck of a guy, man.
Thanks. I appreciate the kind words.
Any last thoughts?
The one thing I would say, if there's kids listening or parents listening, just remember, it seems like bullying is the biggest epidemic that's out there right now, that kids move to taking their lives because they don't feel a certain way, they don't get a certain thing, somebody's putting them down. Guess what? Words don't have power. Stop giving those negative words power, and find my words that do have power, and choose to listen to them and listen to them. You're listening to the wrong words. If people put you down, if people think that you're less than them, those are not the words you want to give power to. But somebody like me that actually truly cares about whether you live or die, or how your life turns out and how you have a great and fabulous life, those are the people you want to give power to.
I love it. Absolutely 100% true. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for spending the moments with us to talk about, it's a new school year, and we've had, that Florida shooting last year in that school, and it's a big hot topic right now. There were 3 mass shootings that I can think of this year alone. I think outside of school, and maybe 3 just in the past month. So it's definitely something that we need to talk about. Bullying, suicides in adults, suicide in children, and it's Suicide Awareness Month in September, so perfect time to do it. So Charlie, again, thank you so much, man. You are an absolute rock star.
Thank you so much.
Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest with a heartfelt story impacting children's and parents' lives around him. If anything resonated with you, please reach out to him. The Facebook link is in the show notes, and his website, Charlie Mickschl, MICKSCHL, charliemickschl.com. Reach out to him. Let him know that you heard him here on Life Transformation Radio, and see what he has to offer. If you belong to a school, consider bringing Charlie in to speak. If you have a child that is experiencing bullying, depression, anxiety, stress, suicidal thoughts, connect with Charlie and save your child today. And with that, I close by saying, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. And I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live a great life.